Hi, I'm Kristen Hawkins with Students for Life.
And I'm Laura Muzica, Executive Director of Sidewalk Advocates for Life.
And I'm here in Dallas today. I've asked my good friend Lauren to come and sit and chat a little bit about what's going on in our pro-life movement with the current elections. And we have a big election coming up this Tuesday. And depending on where you live, the election may be more important than in other states. And you know who you are. But I think it's important that we have this conversation right now in the pro-life movement. And that's why I asked Lauren to come over today so we can have this discussion. You know, I was watching this video actually this morning of one of our student leaders, a Students for Life member at OHSU, who had just watched. She just watched an abortion take place at the medical school. There was a documentary they were showing, and there was of abortionists and trying to, obviously justify what abortion is. But the documentary was very honest about what actually happens during an abortion procedure. And she filmed a video right after walking out of that documentary. And I couldn't get through it without crying because she was crying, visibly shaken, saying, I just saw people die. I just witnessed human beings die. And she was emotionally shaken from that, as anyone would be, as any of us when we would see somebody die, whether it's been a family member that we've witnessed who passed in front of us, or if it's a tragedy on the side of the road, we're visibly shaking, as we should be, because these are human beings that have passed. And I think what we're seeing sometimes, right now in the social movement of the pro-life movement and social media, we see is that I think we've lost sight of the fact of what it is we're fighting for. I think we've lost sight of the fact that what we seek to do in our movement is to make abortion legal and unthinkable. We seek to end the killing of human beings that have value and have dignity simply because they are human beings, no matter how they were conceived, no matter their age or their size or their location, or how much they might depend upon another human being to live. We seek to end that injustice. But because we don't see it happening, I think it's very easy for us to lose sight of that, especially those of us in the pro-life movement. Because if we watch the evening news clips, and every single night we saw before us in those clips the bodies of 2,500 human beings, of 2,500 babies, we would know without a shadow of a doubt, when we went to vote, we would vote for the candidate who vowed to end the atrocity.
That's right. That's right. Yeah, we wouldn't look at that situation and say, hey, the guy that's endorsing that, well, where is he on gas prices?
Yeah.
I mean, we don't know how to wrap our minds around 60 million children that have lost their lives under the banner of so-called safe and legal choice. This is the human rights issue of our times, of our age.
Yeah, I mean, you wouldn't say, well, I'm going to vote for the candidate who was endorsed by those committing the atrocity, because I don't really think that he or she really likes the atrocity. They just are taking money, or they're getting the endorsement, or they're having in-kind support with door knockers in the campaign. I mean, it would be crazy for any American to say that.
Yeah.
But because we don't see abortion, because it's happening behind those closed doors, it allows us almost to forget what it is we're fighting for.
Right, absolutely. I always put in front of people, if there were 2-year-olds lined up at a building and they were executing them one by one, 3,000 2-year-olds, again, we wouldn't be like, oh, well, that's terrible that they're doing that, but where are they on immigration? Where are they on this issue, on that issue?
Or the one that kind of we hear a lot in the pro-life movement is, well, let's work to make sure no parent feels like they have to drop off the kid at the factory to be shot.
Right.
So, I'm gonna vote for a candidate who promises free daycare or does something, but doesn't really stop the tragedy.
Maybe some backdoor social program that might somehow affect that in some way. We'd be like, no, who is voting for this? Who is doing this?
Who would actually advocate for killing these heroes?
Absolutely.
And those social programs are important, and that's a very important part of our pro-life movement is making sure we eliminate those reasons why women feel like they have to make that false choice.
Right.
But that isn't the entire movement. That's a part of our movement, So, I mean, Lauren, obviously this video, we're pretty animated about this issue. And,
right.
and I think sometimes when I see on campuses, when I talk with students, a lot of times they'll say, well, I'm not political. I'm not political. And I'm like, well, you're in the pro-life movement. And so my question is abortion a political issue?
No, at its core, this is the preeminent human rights issue of our age. Mm-hmm. I can't think of any issue out there that compares to the death of 60 million children. I mean, we've got an organization that's doing some nice things for people on the side, that's killing over 300,000 little boys and little girls every single year, and we're funding them to the tune of $500 million in our taxpayer money. We've got people that are voting to continue to fund them, that are funding this enterprise, this criminal enterprise. And so I'm someone who cares about gas prices and immigration and all of these other things, but at the same time, what it comes down to is that life is our first right. This is the preeminent human rights issue of our times. And so we need to look at people who are directly allowing this to continue, who are voting for this, who are creating policies, who are supporting the people that are doing this. I mean, I can't come up with anything in my mind that compares to this issue. And that's why I am proud to be a single issue voter. Sure. This is the determinative issue for me. I care about other things, and yes, I'm interested to hear about what those candidates might have to say about those things, but nothing compares to the death of 60 million children.
Right. And I think when you think about it, obviously there's two major political parties in our country, and that's how our country is run, for better or for worse. That's how our democracy is run. And we have a lot of disappointments and anger with the Republican Party. I worked for the Republican Party at one point, and that was one of the most disappointing things to me. Was when I graduated college, I got the job at the Republican National Committee. I thought it was this great opportunity, and then I found out I was like one of two pro-lifers in my entire division. Like I was like, what? We have a pro-life plank in our party. And I think there's a lot of disappointments that pro-lifers rightly feel towards Republicans, right? Like, we haven't overturned Roe. We've had pro-life presidents appoint Supreme Court justices who've stabbed us in the back, right? Yeah. We haven't defunded Planned Parenthood. The House of Representatives have voted 3+ times to defund Planned Parenthood, but we can't get the votes in the U.S. Senate. Yeah. And part of me is like, if they really care sometimes, like, why don't they try harder, Why don't they do more? And so we have a lot of anger and disappointment with the Republican Party for what they haven't done when it comes to abortion. But we also have a lot of successes for what the Republican Party and those candidates that we select, that we vote for, that we, a lot of pro-life groups endorse, because of what they have done. Like, if you look at the current, administration. Yeah, I mean,
I look at it and I share the disappointment, and then I'm also really elated with, okay, we don't have all the votes that we need in the Senate. So, for example, our president has gotten the ball across the line a good handful of times. He's defunded Planned Parenthood internationally. He's stacked the courts with pro-life judges. We've gotten 2 Supreme Court nominees that have been confirmed by the Senate that are probably, they're poised to overturn Roe. There's just so many things where I'm really excited about what's going on, but that's even more so why we need to vote in people who are going to help the president get this pro-life agenda across the line.
And we need to show up that this is an issue that we care about and that we're not going away. And I think that's actually why the pro-life, we have such a great pro-life platform in the Republican Party, is because pro-lifers wouldn't shut up. Yeah. Pro-lifers kept coming and saying, no, we care about this issue. When I worked President Bush's campaign, the people who showed up every single night to make phone calls, to go door knocking on the weekends, it was the people who were issue motivated. It was pro-lifers. Yeah. It was Christians who showed up. Yeah. It wasn't the people who were for lower gas prices and pump. It wasn't even the people who were concerned about immigration or healthcare. It was the pro-lifers. It was the Christians who showed up. And we look at what we have to do politically. And we know, like I said, our mission in the pro-life movement is to make abortion illegal and unthinkable. Right. And I think those things go hand in hand, right? Yeah. We at Students for Life want to influence culture and that's why we go to college and high school campuses. That's where culture is formed with young people. But we also know that, even though politics is downstream, but we also have to engage in this battle, right? Because if we don't make abortion illegal, many people in our country equate their morality with legality. And that's a very slippery slope for a lot of historical reasons.
That one influences the other, for
But
sure.
yeah,
We
they
see
definitely.
that. Yeah.
And so it's like,
no
you
doubt.
can't just say, I want to work to make abortion unthinkable, but I don't want to make it legal. That's wrong, because if you really believe abortion is a killing of an innocent human life, an innocent human being, of course you would want to make that illegal.
Right.
And so you can't say that.
Right.
But I think it's interesting, like when we look at what's going on, it's like, we need a supermajority in the U.S. Senate, because we were like 3 votes short, I think, of defunding Planned Parenthood in the U.S. Senate, and that's if we can get past the filibuster. I mean, that in itself is going to be difficult. Really, what we need is 60 votes in the U.S. Senate,
and we do that by voting in more pro-life congressmen and women. We don't do it by voting in more pro-abortion.
Yeah, we can't. Like you can't vote for somebody who was endorsed by Planned Parenthood, who proudly says that they are pro-abortion. Like, they're not going to vote with us to defund Planned Parenthood. They're not going to vote with us to confirm the 6th and 7th pro-life Supreme Court justice, and that's really important too, because the Supreme Court's been, obviously a very big thing in our movement. We've been talking about that, and it's very exciting. What's reversing Roe versus Wade going to look like? What are the battle plans? What are the action steps? And I've been working on that with our students and our leaders at Students for Life, and it's very exciting. But reality is, we know the court hates to reverse itself, right? And you're a lawyer, you know this more than I do.
For sure.
We need 6 or 7. Like, we need
we need
7.
to be, I mean, and because we've had justices that have surprised us, I mean, we need to be stacking like every card in our favor. So I say we get another pro-life Supreme Court justice. And people don't understand how government works. We need a pro-life president to nominate justices like that. And then we need the votes in the Senate to confirm those people. And Kavanaugh was just, I mean, he was confirmed by the skin of his teeth. You know, we just barely got him in.
And let's make, there's no debate, like what that whole thing was. Right. It was all over one issue, and that was the issue of abortion. Can you imagine? Can you imagine the next Supreme Court opening that we have, and how crazy? I mean, I'm actually afraid, because I feel like there will be violence. I mean, they were clawing at the doors of the Supreme Court, trying to raid the Supreme Court.
Over gas prices, right?
Yeah,
over gas prices. Or immigration. They're flipping out over
No,
because they know what they're prospectively
They
losing.
know what it is they're fighting for.
And do we know what it is that we're fighting for?
They know exactly what it is they're fighting for. And then we in the pro-life movement have this whole, I'm like, this is crazy. They know what their mission is and what they're going for. But yes, I agree. Like, this isn't a political issue. This is one area we strategically engage in, just like in the communities with pregnancy resource centers and maternity homes and sidewalk advocacy. There's so many different areas. That's what's so great about the pro-life movement. Is you can find your niche in the pro-life movement. There's so many different ways for you to give back and for you to stand up for life. And so I think that's what's so great. But this is something we have to engage on, and you can't kind of put your head in the sand.
We have to unite on this. And the other thing that I want to say is that I don't really care if you're a Democrat, a Republican, a Libertarian, or a vegetarian. You know what I mean? I don't care how you self-identify. For me, where are you on the preeminent human rights issue of our times? That's what wins my vote. So I don't care if you're wearing blue or you're decked out in red. Like, where are you when it comes to defending the unborn? That is the bottom line for us. Are we treating this as the atrocity that it truly is?
And if you think about, like, from a movement perspective, we will know we've won when both the Democratic and the Republican parties fight over our votes. When they both have pro-life platforms, and they go to our people, our movement, and say, vote for me because I'm going to stand for protecting human life and saving these children. That's when we know we win. And I think that's why, I have a lot of friends who are pro-life Democrats. I'm like, stay in the party, like, keep influencing the party. It becomes problematic and morally problematic when it comes to voting, though. But I think that's important that we say that we want pro-life Democrats, just like we want pro-life Republicans, and we want both parties, because this isn't a political issue; it's a human rights issue.
That's right.
How do you feel, Lauren, about sometimes I see on campuses a lot of students who are newer to the pro-life movement who are kind of conflicted about voting, especially in a race where it's like a pro-life Republican, pro-abortion Democrat, because they might like what the Democrat has to say about healthcare or education, that kind of consistent life ethic. How do you, I have my thoughts about that consistent life ethic and what happens and what's our moral obligation there. But I mean, what are your thoughts about like when you're conflicted about, oh, I really like this candidate's policy on all these other social issues, but he's not pro-life or she's not pro-life?
I just don't think every issue has the same moral weight to it, you know? Like I said, I care about a lot of different issues. I've still got mortgage-sized law school loans I'm paying back. I care about the economy.
And you're making all that money in the pro-life movement.
I know. I'm raking it in as the director of a nonprofit.
You might be like 70 before those loans get paid off.
I'm telling you. So I guess I get eternal benefits. I don't know.
Yeah.
So, but I mean, you know, I just can't think of anything that compares to this issue. Life is our first right. And without that, we can't talk about education and immigration and all of these other things. If someone has a worldview where they think it's okay to take the life of an innocent unborn child, then we have to seriously question who they are as a person, as a candidate, everything. Yeah. Everything flows from that basic premise. And so I don't understand why people are kind of putting everything on the same playing field. Yeah. I mean, again, the death of 60 million children, what compares to that? It's
intrinsic moral evil.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I think what's interesting too is when you think about all these different important policy issues that we face in our country and that we have to debate, is that for many of them, there's not one federal solution to the problem, right?
There's no social program out there that's going to wipe out abortion, or
I mean, we talk about poverty, for example, or education. All of us want to reduce poverty. All of us want children to be able to be born into families where their parents can afford to feed them, where they live in a safe environment, where they're getting the best education. Like, I don't know anybody who would say, no, I want kids to live in poverty. I want kids to
I don't want them to have education
none of us in our collective society advocates. No one would advocate for that. But we have different differences of opinion on how to get those solutions and how to get those things done. And that's why we have a democracy, right? We can take our ideas and we say, vote for me because this is how I believe we're going to find a solution. And we can have those disagreements. And I think that's what's so interesting about abortion is there is one solution to abortion. It's to make it illegal and unthinkable. To stop abortions from happening. It's very, very simple. It's a very black and white issue.
And it's actually, I mean, it's unbelievable that it's actually up for debate whether or not a child should live or die. I mean, we're for looking at education and, resolving hunger issues and, all these social things that we think about day to day. We care about those things. The debate in the two major parties is how best to get that done. But it's actually a debate in one party about whether or not a child lives or dies. And so it's just insane to me that we're putting everything on the same moral playing field.
I think that's a very slippery slope. And I think that it's a deliberate tool from the political left. Like I was interviewed by NPR last week. There's a group of politically left evangelicals going across the country, telling other Christians, evangelicals, don't basically vote Republican just because they're anti-abortion. Like, there's a lot of other issues that matter more, and it's the same old. We see it again, but this is a tool of the Democratic Party. Like in 2004, remember, there were actual trainings that were being had in Washington D.C. on the Democratic congressmen for how to speak Christian, how to speak evangelical, and really how to take back the term pro-life and say, I believe in a woman's right to choose, but I'm pro-life because I believe in education and healthcare and what all. I think it's very deliberate, and we've seen that in the pro-life movement. Like, there's a lot of confusion on the terms and what's pro-life, who's pro-life, and that's why a lot of times now I just use the word anti-abortion because it's very clear. Like, this is what I stand for. And we see that there's confusion in terms. We look at polling when we get the majority of Americans. We've done before. We've had majority of millennials agree that abortion should be illegal in all or almost every circumstance. 53%. But then only 36% call themselves pro-life. So we know there's mass confusion on the terms. And so I think that's been deliberate.
When we draw this huge umbrella and say pro-life means 20 different things, then how can we come together on either this is the permanent issue or it's not?
And when we talk about what we're working on in the pro-life movement, this is a very single issue. Like, we're singularly focused on ending abortion. And I think that's a good thing. That actually gives us more diversity and the opportunity for more diversity in the movement, because you and I may agree on abortion and how to end abortion, but we may disagree on the death penalty.
Yeah.
We may disagree on certain economic policies. We may disagree on gay marriage, like important issues that need to be hammered out in our society. But we can still work together to end abortion.
Yeah.
And I think it's a very slippery slope when you start saying, well, pro-life means these 20 things. And unless you are with me on these 20 issues, then you can't join me. Because actually what you've done is you've narrowed the amount of people. You've narrowed the list of people that can actually even join your cause. And if you really want diversity, you'll stay focused on one issue.
Right.
So I think that's
I couldn't have said it
important.
any better.
So,
for sure.
No, what do you think about, do you think that we should be proud to be single issue voters, or do you think that's like a bad thing? I think sometimes people think of single issue voters as narrow-minded, or I don't know. How do you feel about that?
Think about like all the great causes that people have fought for throughout history, like the suffragist movement, where women wanted the right to vote. They were single issue voters, right? Think about slavery, like the people who fought against that, they were single issue voters. And so I think the question for us is, the death of 60 million unborn children, is that big enough to compare to a woman's right to vote and to equal rights for people across the board, regardless of race? Is that a preeminent issue for us or not? I'm proud to be a single issue voter because I can't think of anything that compares to this issue. Nothing, sister.
Single issue voters all the way. I mean,
that's right.
We're proud to vote pro-life first.
That's right.
That's what we are.
Yep.
And I think it's crazy if you think of somebody who's fighting in the civil rights movement, who then would go, if they would cast their ballot for someone who's a white supremacist or a Klansman, and say, well, I really like their other policies.
Right.
No.
Or they're doing something in a backdoor way that might affect that issue.
No,
right?
no civil rights activists would vote for a white supremacist, right? Because they were fighting counter to everything that they were striving for and to change our country. And I think when you think about the history of our country, you're right.
Yeah.
We had change because of single issue voters. There's value and virtue in being a single issue voter, and it's nothing to be ashamed of. And don't let other people call you out or demoralize you for being a single issue voter. That's a tactic, right?
Well, and Planned Parenthood and NARAL are single issue
Absolutely,
voters. They've got
they
their
are.
scorecards. If a candidate has 100% NARAL top rating, 100% voting record for Planned Parenthood, then that's probably a clue that they're not my candidate.
That's what's so frustrating, because the other side, Planned Parenthood, they're 100% single issue voters. But then they look at pro-lifers and say, well, you don't care about women after the baby's been born. You don't care about, like, they try to make pro-lifers feel guilty about being single. There's nothing to feel guilty about. We're about standing for human rights. We're about standing up to against this injustice and ending the injustice of abortion. Well, amen to that.
They're getting their agenda across the line because they're so singularly focused on this issue, on their issue, abortion, and they all unite behind it.
Exactly.
And so the question for us is,
what are we going to do? Are we going to sit here and argue with each other and not have a strategic plan in the pro-life movement? Or are we going to get it done? Are we going to get it? Are we going to get it done?
Right.
Are we going to abolish abortion in a lifetime? Make it unthinkable, make it illegal.
That's right.
And if we're going to do it, we have to do it together. So thanks everybody for watching today. I hope you vote pro-life first on Tuesday. Bye.
Thank you.